shipped at half price. Yes, E&W Shipping, your ship and clear company, is making shipping easy this holiday season. Call 770-524-8663 now and get your barrels shipped and cleared hassle-free to Jamaica. E&W Shipping, your ship and clear company.
Are you ready to feel your best? At Goot Wellness Spa, we're healing the body one drop at a time. Located right here in Tucker, Georgia, Goot Wellness is your destination for total health and wellness. We specialize in immune system support, detoxifying therapies, and even cutting-edge treatments like the X39 patch for stem cell activation. Imagine revitalizing your body from the inside out. Whether you're looking to boost your immune system, cleanse and detoxify, or explore green nutrition guidance, Goot Wellness is here for you. Visit us at 2122 Vistadale Court in Tucker, Georgia, or call us at 770-605-6687 and start your journey to optimal health. Goot Wellness Spa, healing the body one drop at a time.
Atlanta, your ship and clear company, E&W Shipping, is making it easy for your shipments to Jamaica this holiday season. Beginning right now, call 770-524-8663 and have your barrels picked up to meet the following shipping dates. Saturday, October 26th, Friday, November 16th, and Friday, November 30th. Get your barrels in by October 26th, and you can have your second barrel shipped at half price. Yes, E&W Shipping, your ship and clear company, is making shipping easy this holiday season. Call 770-524-8663 now and get your barrels shipped and cleared hassle-free to Jamaica. E&W Shipping, your ship and clear company.
Hi everyone, tune in to Rosalie Henry, the seven-figure doula whisperer, every Thursday at 7 p.m. on the Caribbean Live Radio. Chat about with Rosalie Henry, the seven-figure doula whisperer.
Check, it's Rebel Mass, and be sure to tune into Unplugged with Rebel Mass and DJ Mecca Rose every Saturday, 2:15 to 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and be sure to lock in with Caribbean Live Radio and Caribbean Live TV.
This is Pastor Carlene Hepburn. Please tune in to Recharge Nation every Saturday from 9:30 to 11 a.m. on Caribbean Life, TV, and radio.
Check. Yo. This is DJ Silent. Again, this is DJ Silent. I want you guys to know every Tuesday right here at Caribbean Live Radio, Caribbean Live TV, it's all about the Rhythm and Hit Show. Again, right here at Caribbean Live TV, Caribbean Live Radio is all about the Rhythm and Hit Show from 6 to 8 with yours truly again, DJ Silent.
Hello, my name is Unique Shamik with Sacred 7 Conversations. We meet every Wednesday at 7:45 to 8:45 p.m. Tap in with Sacred 7 Conversations. I see you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to CLTV, Caribbean Life TV and Radio. I am your host, Mayor Beverly Jones, and you are listening to Real Talk. This is where you get all the information, entertainment, and whatever it is that you need to get from this, we have it for you. We're just so happy to be here tonight because this is a really exciting time in America. It's tense. It's exasperating, it's exciting, and I decided today that I just wanted to kind of calm it down a little and bring in some information in terms of, what's going on in the state of Georgia, primarily in DeKalb County. And I have a fantastic guest today. This is someone that you need to know in your city. Today, I have Mr. Ken Lawler. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming out here. I know that the city, the state, the world is sitting on pins and needles in terms of this election. And let's tell them what you do that's so exciting and how you contribute to elections.
Well, thank you. Our organization called Fair Districts Georgia Foundation, we look at the issue of redistricting in Georgia, which is how the district maps are drawn for your election that relates to your election for Congress and state assembly. We are trying to stop the practice of what's called gerrymandering, if you've heard that term, which is basically cheating when you draw the maps, right?
Okay. Oh, wow. Now you said something very potent when you said cheating.
Right.
Because people don't think of redrawing the maps as cheating. They think that the only cheat comes in the ballots. So how do you change that from change people thinkings from, okay, it's not all about the ballots, as we know happened 4 years ago, and all the drama surrounded that. So tell me, because a lot of people are totally unaware that there's other types of cheating.
There is, and so the way we think about this is, what do voters want? Voters want free and fair elections in Georgia.
Yes,
and
we do.
everywhere. So we say that the big umbrella, the big goal here is free and fair elections. Now, there's two parts to that problem. I call it two sides to the same coin. One part is conduct of the election, registration, ballots, voting, counting, all the stuff that's going to go on tomorrow and has been going on in Georgia for 2.5, 3 weeks, right? That's all I call it, conduct of the election. But what are you voting on? If the map that you're voting on, if the districts that you're voting on for your congressperson, your state representative, and your state senator, if those maps are drawn fairly, then you can have a free and fair election. Fair conduct, fair maps.
Okay, but who's drawing the maps?
The maps are being drawn in Georgia by the state legislature. They have the power to do it. They are supposed to do it every 10 years after the census is redrawn. Every new census, new population, you want to even out the districts so they have equal population. That's the one person, one vote rule, right?
So it's like expansion.
Some districts expand, some districts contract. It just depends on where people have moved.
Okay.
But the mandate in the Constitution is that you equalize as best you can the population of every district so that my vote and your vote, we vote in different districts, but our votes count the same towards representation. There's about 60,000 voters in every state house district, about 59,000. In every congressional district, that's around, I think it's 750 or 770,000. But so I want every vote to count the same, so the districts have to be equalized in population. So the state legislature, under the Georgia Constitution, has the power to redraw the maps. And so they have to redraw the boundaries to equalize the population. Now, that's all fine and good. That's what it should be done. The problem is that in Georgia, you're allowed to cheat. And the way you cheat in Georgia is you can make the map favorable to your party if you're the party in power.
And that's where we're going. And so give me some examples of some gerrymandering in Georgia, either some dates or times or a special election.
Well, there's unfortunately a lot. So we
throw it up in the air where it comes down, right?
I will say this. We are a nonpartisan organization. We are nonpartisan because both parties have been guilty of this. After the 2000 census, the Georgia legislature was run by Democrats. And they did a very bad gerrymander that made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and was overturned. And that gerrymander was on the basis of they didn't have one person, one vote. They stacked the Republican districts, they unstacked the Democratic districts so that Republicans were kind of clustered into a few districts and Democrats had more districts. So that was unfair. That happened after the 2000 election. And again, the Supreme Court of the U.S. overturned that in a very famous case in around about 2004. After the 2004 case, the maps were redrawn by a court. And so when the 2004 election happened, it was actually unfair maps. That's the only time in the last 20 years that's happened. After that moment in time, the Republicans then came to power, and since then they've been drawing the maps. And so, for example, after the 2010 census, the next 10-year census,
Yes.
Republicans drew the maps, and they drew it in their favor. And they did it again in 2021 after the most recent census. And so it's a constant problem because there are no laws in Georgia that prevent partisan gerrymandering where you draw the map to favor your party at the expense of the other party. That's one of the issues that we have with the system in Georgia.
And you said this is every 10 years.
Well, that's a good question. It's supposed to happen, it has to happen every 10 years. But what we also have found out is that in Georgia, the legislature has the power to draw the maps at other times. And so over the last 20 years, there have been 4 different instances in which about 70 districts were altered without waiting for a new census count. And they did it specifically because they wanted to make certain districts easier to win. It was all about political gain. So again, we call that mid-cycle redistricting. It's a practice that frankly ought to be banned because there's no reason to draw a map unless you have a new census.
And so what happened? Was there an election during that time?
Well, there are elections every 2 years.
Right. So
for State
when
House
they
and State
redrew
Senate.
it, what happened in the election? I mean, because it was unfair,
Yep,
right?
right.
And so was the election overturned? What was the reprimand?
Well, that's a good question. So let's take an example. In the 2010 election, I'm going to go back that far and then I'll kind of come up to date, right? In the 2010 election, excuse me, in the 2012 election, the maps were redrawn after the 2010 census. They were drawn in favor of the party in power at the time, which is the Republicans, because they drew the maps, right? The Republicans, their overall vote share at the statewide level for governor and president and stuff was kind of declining over that period of time. They still had a majority of those votes, but their vote share was declining. So it was a surprise that in 2012, after that election, they were able to achieve a supermajority of seats in the state House and the state Senate. How do you get a supermajority of seats when your vote share is going down? If the seat share goes up, your wins go up, and your vote share goes down, something is wrong. And so that's the impact on an election if you have a map that's drawn to favor one party or the other.
So to me, it sounds like too bad, so sad. Okay? Yeah, it was wrong. You had an election. What happened?
In that particular case, those maps were not taken to court. I don't know why. I wasn't involved at that time, but I wish they would have taken them to court, right? But that's what happens when that happens. Now, we just had another census in 2020.
Yes, we did.
Maps were redrawn in 2021, okay? Our organization has researched and studied those maps. We believe those maps were also tilted on a partisan basis. But another thing happened in those maps, and that is that they were disadvantaging voters of color. And that's
now, this is in Georgia, everyone. We're talking about Georgia.
This is Georgia-specific maps. And we're talking about the map for Congress and for State House and for State Senate, the State Assembly, right?
Yes.
Those maps disadvantaged voters of color. A lot of people thought that. Those maps were taken to court, in federal court, and there's a law called the Voting Rights Act, passed in 1965, that's been updated several times since then. And under the Voting Rights Act, you have to draw maps that are fair to voters of color, that allow voters of color, and in Georgia specifically, that's largely black voters.
Is it specifically people of color, or are you trying to redraw the map for people of color, or are you trying to make it more equal and fair?
You're trying to make sure that voters of color have the opportunity to elect candidates of their choice in districts where they live.
Okay.
You can't draw maps that disadvantage those voters, that there should be a certain number of districts in Georgia for voters of color based on our population. 2020 census, I think a lot of people, maybe they don't know this, but all the growth in Georgia's population from 2010 to 2020, voters of color. The white population, folks like me, we actually shrank, but voters of color grew.
You actually shrunk in different counties?
Across the state. Voters of color, all the growth was, blacks, Asians, Latin voters. There's a whole, cross-section of people.
I understand the growth spurt.
Exactly, growth spurt, right? But yet the maps that were drawn did not offer new opportunities for those voters of color in 2021. The map should have had additional what we call black majority districts where the blacks are enough of a majority so that they can influence or win an election and elect a candidate of their choice. Whether that candidate is black or white or Latin doesn't matter. What matters is their voice counts. And so the Voting Rights Act prohibits disadvantaging a voter of color when you draw the maps to disadvantage them. And so these maps went to court, went to federal court. And 2 years later, in last October, the court finally ruled that the maps were in fact a violation of the Voting Rights Act.
Okay. And so what happens?
So what happened?
And the reason why I'm asking everyone what happens is because we have seen elections where it has been clearly defined that it was a cheat, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
nothing happens.
Right.
It's like if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. And if it's unfair on this side or unbalanced, so again, my so sad, too bad.
Right, right. And so what happened was those maps were drawn, the original maps were drawn in November of 2021. And those maps, even though they were challenged immediately in court, those maps were used in the 2022 election. So one could argue that those maps in 22 were unfair to voters of color. The court case was finally decided in 2023, really about a year ago, and the state legislature was forced to draw new maps to refigure the districts so that voters of color now had additional opportunity. And actually that worked. What happened was, for example, in the state house, 5 additional districts were drawn that allowed black voters to have a majority or near majority so that they could elect the candidate of their choice. So the maps improved for voters of color. The state house was 5 additional districts. The state senate was 2. Actually, no, 3, I think. And then the congressional map needed additional 1 district to allow black voters their voice to be heard, right? Okay. And so the maps got better for this election for voters of color.
How so? Because no one's going to believe that.
Well, because now there are additional districts that have a majority of black population. So if the voters in those districts decide to all vote or vote en masse for a candidate of their choice, they can now control the outcome of that election in that district.
Do you know what districts those might be?
I do know those districts.
Okay.
So in the state house,
Okay.
These 5 districts were added in the state house.
What year were they added?
So these were added again in that year ago, 2023. The maps were redrawn.
Okay.
And 5 additional house districts in Georgia were added for voters of color. In the House, it's number 64. I'm going to just read these numbers.
That's fine. That's fine.
House District 64, 74, 117, 145, and 149. Now, where are those districts? Well, in the House Districts 64 and 74 are South and West Metro Atlanta area. A lot of black voter growth in Douglas County, in Clayton and Henry County. So those districts were added. District 117 was in South Metro as well. And then there was an extensive growth of black voters in Macon-Bibb. And so districts 145 and 149 were added for black voters in Macon-Bibb to be able to elect the candidate of their choice. So 5 new districts for black voters were added to State House. Good, that's progress. That's progress.
Yes, it is.
On the Senate side, the districts are 17 and 28, 17 being South Metro Atlanta, Clayton and Henry counties, and 28 is Douglas and South Fulton, so kind of in the South Metro area. When the court ruled on these cases, they looked at many, many districts across the state, and they said the plaintiffs were able to prove their case that these particular regions of Georgia, South Metro, West Metro, and Macon-Bibb, that's where the districts were drawn to be disadvantaged. Yes. And so the court said, you must redraw districts to add these districts to the map. And they did.
And it was very successful.
Successful from the point of view of black voters, but there's a catch.
Okay, there's a caveat always, right?
And the catch is that, as one would expect, if you add districts for black voters, those districts are likely to be net Democratic-leaning districts, partisan-leaning to Democrats. And so, in theory, if those districts were drawn and no other changes were made, Democrats might have gained power in those districts. The state legislature, however, said, we don't want that to happen. And so we're going to those districts, we'll add those because the court told us to do that. But we're later, elsewhere in the map, going to take districts back. They evened the score. And they were very open about it. They said this. And when we went down to the hearings at the state capitol, we're listening to what they're saying. They said, look, we're just trying to preserve the existing partisan balance by doing this. So, for example, this is and something happened in DeKalb, right?
Okay.
Those 2 black Senate districts were added, But they took Senate District 42, which is a DeKalb County, and they blew it up. And they moved that district from DeKalb all the way out to southwest, southeast.
DeKalb?
No, out of the county altogether.
Okay.
It was moved to, where'd that one go? It went down to Monroe and Madison counties in the rural areas, in the rural outlying areas, kind of the exurbs of Atlanta, right?
Right.
And they did that basically to even the score. They did it with Senate District 6, which was a Fulton and Cobb district. So they gave the black districts that the court mandated, and they took back other districts so that they could even the partisan score.
But was it really even?
No. And that's what the legislature wouldn't tell you. What they said, we're just trying to keep the partisan balance the same. What they weren't telling you was that the partisan balance was unfair to begin with, which was the argument that we and many others had made, that they had executed they had a partisan gerrymander combined with a racial gerrymander in the 2021 maps. So the court ordered them to fix the racial gerrymander. That's why we got the new districts. But the court didn't deal with partisan gerrymandering because there is no law that prevents it. So they were able to basically even the score in drawing those maps. And that affected voters in DeKalb because a Senate district got moved out of DeKalb. There were House districts in DeKalb that got changed. 81 and 82 were changed as well. Whenever you change a district, there's some ripple effect where you have to change the population of nearby districts. But when they're taking districts that are totally irrelevant from the court-ordered change and making those changes, they're doing it for partisan gain.
And do they choose the districts that's high in population or low in population, or does it matter?
Well, the districts, their starting point was the 2021 map where the maps had already been equalized, right? But when they redrew, what they were looking at was where can I move a district out of Democratic territory into Republican territory, right? And so it's a partisan political game.
To get balance.
To make it, to keep it in their favor. They're trying to keep the map in their favor.
Understand.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this way. I mean, we can talk later about how to fix that. But
politics is a very, very funny game. You know, it is, and it becomes a game. And so we're going to go to a commercial because I got so many more exciting questions to ask you about politics, voting. You know, I'm into politics, and oh man, I can't wait to write my horror story.
You're a professional politician. I'm an amateur, but yeah.
I think everybody who votes is a professional politician. So we're going to go to a commercial, and then, ladies and gents, we're going to come back because we have so much information to share with you. And again, this is the election season. I mean, it's on right now. There's no turning back. And so when we come back, we're going to have more information that's going to teach us how to be better voters.
Check. Yo. This is DJ Silent. Again, this is DJ Silent. I want you guys to know every Tuesday right here at Caribbean Live Radio, Caribbean Live TV. It's all about the rhythm and hit show. Again, right here at Caribbean Live TV, Caribbean Live Radio is all about the rhythm and hit show from 6 to 8 with yours truly again, DJ Silent.
Atlanta, your ship and clear company, E&W Shipping, is making it easy for your shipments to Jamaica this holiday season. Beginning right now, call 770-524-8663 and have your barrels picked up to meet the following shipping dates: Saturday, October 26th, Friday, November 16th, and Friday, November 30th. Get your barrels in by October 26th, and you can have your second barrel shipped at half price. Yes, E&W Shipping, your ship and clear company, is making shipping easy this holiday season. Call 770-524-8663 now and get your barrels shipped and cleared hassle-free to Jamaica. E&W Shipping, your ship and clear company.
Are you ready to feel your best? At Goot Wellness Spa, we're healing the body one drop at a time. Located right here in Tucker, Georgia, Goot Wellness is your destination for total health and wellness. We specialize in immune system support, detoxifying therapies, and even cutting-edge treatments like the X39 patch for stem cell activation. Imagine revitalizing your body from the inside out. Whether you're looking to boost your immune system, cleanse and detoxify, or explore green nutrition guidance, Goot Wellness is here for you. Visit us at 2122 Vistadale Court in Tucker, Georgia, or call us at 770-605-6687 and start your journey to optimal health. Goot Wellness Spa, healing the body one drop at a time.
We're back, and I tell you, we've had some great conversation. I hope you guys are listening to this because this is very, very important that we understand what's happening in our government. It's very, very important that you understand. So when you go to the polls, that you will know how you became a bigger district or how the districts were eliminated and for the purposes of elimination. So, you know, social studies was my favorite subject. I love, love, love politics. And so I didn't understand it. I don't think it was this competitive when I was growing up, not to my knowledge. But right now, it's just like we're in war. We're in a political war, basically, with the competition that's going on right now because it's so aggressive. And so let's just talk about how that affects the different counties.
I think it's interesting that we have been a competitive state for statewide elections since about 2018. If you look at the trends, okay, if you look at the trends in Georgia voting for governor and president and U.S. senator, right, those trends indicate that since 2018 we've been competitive. Now that wasn't true going back way before then. It was a very Republican-oriented state. But now,
Okay.
the governor's race in 2018 was very close. The 20, everybody knows the 2020 presidential election was very close. Everybody's saying this is going to be another close one, right?
Right.
And so competition is a good thing. You know, having Georgia in the spotlight as a competitive state is all good. The question is, how does that affect my down ballot races at the county level? How does that affect the races I vote on for state house and state senate in my congressional district? Well, it turns out that one of the problems with the maps that have been drawn, right? We talked about partisan gerrymandering and racial gerrymandering. Let's assume that we've kind of fixed the racial gerrymandering issue because of the court case, but we're still gerrymandering on a partisan basis. Well, one of the effects has been to almost eliminate competition from those maps.
And why?
To keep it safe. They want safe seats.
But people don't understand safe seats. To the general public, what does that mean?
What that means is that we consider an election competitive if it's won by less than 7%. So let's say you have a district that's 52% to 48. That's a pretty competitive race. That's only
Yes, it is.
That's a 4-point difference.
Right.
But it's +2. Competitive means about 53.5 or less. Even 60% is too big of a win. It's very hard to overcome that kind of a margin, right? So when you set the margin at 7 points, 7-point win or less, that's a competitive district, right? Out of the 236 races in the Georgia Assembly, guess how many were competitive in the last midterm? Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. So it was
236
and
races.
36.
How many were competitive at that 7-point margin or less?
Okay, so I'm going to say maybe about 219.
Lower.
175?
5. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. There were only 5 competitive races in the state house because the maps are drawn to. There's a few districts where you can draw competitive races, like Metro Atlanta, like North. I live in North Metro Atlanta.
Okay.
I happen to live in a very competitive House district.
5, did you say?
5 out of 236 were competitive. None of our congressional seats, none of our 14 congressional seats were close to being competitive. The maps were drawn that way, and again, that means if I draw a map so that my candidate on my party is going to win by 60%,
Right.
then it's a guaranteed win.
But where's the pushback? I mean, we just can't stand by and let these things happen year after election after election. And
Right.
actually, we don't have to wait 4 years, you guys, just to be, excited about elections. The other elections every 2 years is just as important
Right.
as the presidential election.
Right, so every
And
2 years we get to vote again for our state house and state senate and Congress, right? So we do
Yes.
have a chance every 2 years, right? How do we got to get this? We got to fix the process because the process allows the party in power to draw the maps in their favor, and all indications are that the maps that we are voting on tomorrow are about the same, not very competitive at all. I'd guess there'd be maybe a few more than 5. We'll see how the vote turns out.
okay, two things. Why is it not competitive? Because this is one of the biggest elections I think that we've ever had.
Well, let's distinguish between
In
people
terms of
running for
competition, in terms of attitude, openness.
Yeah.
It's been like a wrestling match to me. You pick them up and you throw them down, then you kick them in the face.
At the presidential level, Georgia's up for grabs, right?
Yes,
We know
yes,
this.
yes.
I can't predict how tomorrow's going to turn out. It could go either way. Everybody says that, right? I'm not
Yes.
an election prognosticator, but it sure smells to me like this is a competitive state, right?
Oh my God, yes,
Right.
it is.
Now, it takes a lot to run for office. You know this.
I
You've
do.
done that. I ran for state house one time, so
Okay.
I at least had the experience of losing. Okay.
Okay.
About half of the assembly districts at least have 2 candidates. So there are people trying, and I thank you for people who step up to do that. It's a challenge, and the more districts that get challenged, the better chance you have of having a competitive race. Still, so if half the districts are competitive, you think why aren't more of them then, if they're contested? I'll say if there's 2 people on the ballot tomorrow.
Yes.
That means they're at least being contested. This is 48%, about half.
I can't get over 5%.
But 5 people, that's only 5 districts actually where the vote turned out to be, when you tallied the votes, only 5 turned out to be competitive. Our estimate for this election is it might be a few more this time because the maps have changed a little bit. We would guess maybe 8. 1 competitive Senate district that we can identify, maybe 7 in the House.
Okay,
Maybe a few
so
more.
what
That's because the maps were drawn to make it safe. Basically, the parties, they make a deal, say, you get safe seats, I get safe seats, but the party in power gets to guarantee their
it's
win.
more safe seats.
That's how they maintain control of the chamber.
So let me ask you, for this election, the presidential election, who is the power and control at the moment that gets more safe seats?
Well, the Republicans drew these maps since they have been in power since, for many years. But as a result of the census, after the 21 census, they have controlled the state legislature and the governor, of course, who signs the maps,
Yes.
right? And so at this point, those maps are under their control.
Okay.
Right.
Question answered.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So what are your thoughts about this election? I mean, tomorrow's the big day, and people are nervous. People are on pins and needles. People are angry. People are excited. There's so many emotions that's going on around here. And so I'm afraid to even be out because I've seen people saying some hostile things about the election. And it's like, it's not supposed to be about hostility.
Right.
It's about change, hopefully, one way or the other. So what are your thoughts on the election tomorrow?
A couple things. I think, first of all, I have confidence that our system's going to work.
Okay, perfect.
I have confidence. I have done enough poll watching in my time, watching people run elections at the precinct level. Excuse me. I've listened to Secretary Raffensperger. This morning, Gabe Sterling was on Politically Georgia talking about it. I think they have a system that it's going to work. Despite people maybe wanting to argue about it or contest it or
Okay,
do weird
so-
things, I think the conduct of the election is probably going to work out. So I'm not worried that there's going to be some blow up somewhere. And so one of my comments was, we talk about how to make these elections work. Get out and vote. The most important thing I can do tomorrow, although I've already voted, the most important anything can do is make sure you have voted by the end of the day tomorrow.
Yes.
Because that's how we increase the competition. You got to send a message to the people drawing these maps and the people running the election saying, I have a vote. My vote counts. I don't want to ever discourage people from voting by saying there's only 5 competitive races. They can be more competitive if more people get out and vote.
Okay.
Half are being contested. And keep in mind, voter turnout, hopefully we have a record tomorrow. I think we've already got record early voting.
Georgia has had some records. They've broken some records.
Exactly.
In the
So
last month.
I'm optimistic. We're gonna have crazy big turnout, but it could still be that 20% of voters stay home. Well, they're making a decision about how this election works as much as the people who vote, because in some of these races, it can be more competitive. But if you stay home, you're not speaking up.
You don't have a voice. If you don't get
Exactly.
out and vote tomorrow, you don't have a voice. And it was just so unfortunate that this week I've met 5 young men who's never voted. And I did everything in my power to ask them why. And I'm going to start, right after the election, getting them prepared, whatever the situation, problem, or what. Some people just feel like my vote just doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's
Right.
what's been going on for years. Oh, well, it's not going to make a difference. But it does make a difference.
It can make a difference. In
Yes.
an election that's this close for president, at least, every vote is going to matter here. Every single vote. It could be even closer. Who knows? So absolutely, those votes count. I would drag them to the polls tomorrow. Take it, get them in your
Well,
car.
some are being dragged. Some
See,
of them
that
are
makes-
being dragged.
right,
And I never had such, in my lifetime, there's never been an election so tense. What about your lifetime?
I tend to agree with you. I tend to agree with you that the temperature, the attitude has been ramped up. I think a lot of that has to do with certain national leaders who are, making the election more tense than it needs to be.
Sensationalizing it?
Sensationalizing, coming up with theories about why the elections are going to be rigged. I think that's a bunch of garbage, to be honest with you. I think generally the election workers in Georgia and the Secretary of State run a pretty good ship. I wish that things could change. There are things I'd like to change about election laws in Georgia, because certain things in the election laws that were passed, SB 202 in 2022 was, in 21 was passed, disadvantaged certain counties like DeKalb with drop box removals and things like that. That shouldn't have happened.
Changing locations?
Change locations, lock them up so you couldn't put your ballot in after working
No
hours.
water?
No water. That's right. I mean, some of that stuff to me is petty and ridiculous.
But it was productive in some areas in terms of turning people around, and that was the objective to certain parties.
Right, right. And so, here's a perspective I put on this. We've been running elections in this country for 235 years. You would think we'd have the rules set and done with by now. Why do we keep changing them, right?
Because we keep changing the people and the mindsets.
Right. And if you don't believe in democracy except when your side wins, then you don't believe in democracy.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
So you shouldn't be changing the election rules constantly. We should set them and leave them, and let's come up with a fair set that works for everybody. But unfortunately, that's some of the stuff that's been going on in the last 2 or 3 years, is people wanting to change the rules, looking for an edge.
Consistently.
And so, I think that has contributed to this attitude of, well, maybe my vote doesn't count because I've heard about some of the things these people want to do. And I just think that's disservice to voters, disservice to democracy.
But now, in all honesty, we have had some elections that was unfair, that it was proven that their vote did not count. And so what do you say to that? When people come back and say, I didn't vote because my vote don't count, and you say, well, every vote counts, and you're like, well, there were 2 presidential elections where there was sort of a cheat. So what do you say to people?
Well, I can't speak to those kind of cheatings. I have not studied that particular question, so I
Right.
can't give you an opinion on that. But I think
Okay.
that to the extent that either it did happen or people raised the specter or the appearance that it happened,
Okay.
it turns voters off. And so I think that, to me, should be out of bounds in terms of
I agree.
conversation about the election. The
Because
election is about let the voters speak.
Let the voters speak and let the votes count where they are.
Exactly.
And so that I'm hoping that, it has been predicted that we will not have an answer. We will not have, tomorrow is the big day, but tomorrow night we will not know who is winning. That's been the prediction.
Well, I heard something interesting this morning from Gabe Sterling, right, who's the operating officer for Brad Raffensperger, who said that in Georgia, one of the rules changes now is that on election night, all the early votes and absentee votes will be released and tabulated by 8 p.m. So polls close at 7. So we had 4 million people already voted. We're going to know the results of those 4 million an hour after the polls close. That's a big deal.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That'll be amazing.
Yes,
Now, there's a
that's
lot of
amazing.
people going to vote on election day, right? And so the question is, if you see that after the 4 million plus votes that have already been recorded,
Yes.
if you see a big margin one way or the other, you might say, I think I see where this is going. On the other hand, it could still be very close.
Yes.
But obviously, all votes have to be counted. You got to count them all fairly, right? They're going to do audits and that kind of stuff afterwards.
Right.
But I think we might know, Georgia might be one of the earlier states because Georgia has allowed, the rules now allow counties to start processing absentee ballots and their early votes before election day. So that helps us speed up the process and hope the accuracy should
But is
be
that,
there.
I was going to say, is that fair?
Why not?
Or will people start calling that foul play?
No.
Because
I mean, I can't imagine why it would be foul. It's just let's get the results faster. Why wait? Why create the uncertainty? Remember in 2020, the votes, some of the late votes came in because a lot of people voted absentee in the pandemic.
Yes.
And some people claimed, well, we should stop counting at midnight and let those other votes not count.
Every vote must count.
Nonsense.
Every vote must count.
Now I think we're going to see results faster in Georgia, and I think that's a good thing, so that there's this period of uncertainty is less, and people can stop making up their own theories about why certain votes shouldn't be counted after midnight. That's nonsense. If you voted and you got your vote in on time,
It should be counted.
and by the way, let's just remind people that if you are holding an absentee ballot, a paper ballot, get it to a drop box tomorrow. Don't put it in the mail. Get it to a drop box. Every county has at least one. Get it in.
Okay.
Got to do that.
Okay. And just for those who are listening, congratulations for those who are first-time voters. I think that this is very, very exciting for you to be out there voting. But you said get the absentee ballots in by what time? Close of election
I think it's
time?
7 p.m.
By 7 p.m.?
I'm not an expert on the rules, but
Yeah.
I think it's close of business, which is 7 p.m.
Okay.
And that's the standard in Georgia, is my understanding, right?
Okay. Well, I'm really excited. I have that anxiety. I have that excitement. It's just, my blood is just running all over the place.
Stakes
And-
are
and
high. The stakes are
The
high.
stakes are high, and this is sort of, sometimes I feel like I'm in a bad movie, but I can't wait to the end to see how it's going to come out.
Are you getting tired of it? You're getting tired of it?
You know, being elected twice, I've been in the heat of these type of elections, and so sometimes you just have to be mild-mannered and tempered, and it teaches you about temperament. Well, it teaches some people about temperament, okay? And so it can be very, very exhilarating, when you are running for an office and you're waiting on the votes to come in, and it goes high and low and high and low. And so what I've just learned is just come home and take a nap and wake up in the morning and see who won. That's my solution.
Take a break.
Take a break
Everybody
from it.
deserves a break.
Yes,
you deserve a
everyone
break.
deserves a break.
Everybody's been living through all this stuff, and I'm in a competitive House district, so I'm getting mailers and mailers and mailers and phone calls and texts and all that stuff. And to me, it's nice to see how it all works,
Yes.
But I'll take a break. I'm ready to move on to
it seems
the
like
result.
It seems like these elections are getting more high-spirited, and because it's a time when you could vote by 9 o'clock. All of the votes were in by midnight. You're celebrating, and now you just have to wait. I mean, I believe in the last presidential election we had to wait almost a week.
I think you're right. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but there were a
it
lot
was
of,
nerve-wracking.
Well, we had the pandemic, right? So a lot
We
of votes,
did, we
paper
did.
votes in
Okay,
different
you're right,
states,
you're
and
right.
it was a crazy election because of the pandemic.
You're right.
And I think they handled it decently well.
Yes.
In light of the pandemic, but that held things up, and I'm hoping we don't see that kind of delay this time around. I think Georgia's probably got its act together. We'll see.
Well, I hope so. Okay, so what do you see in the future in terms of the elections changing? What changes do you see in the future for these elections?
Well, we want this.
Okay.
Our organization is trying to advocate to fix the process for redistricting, right? Because right now there's almost no provisions in Georgia to stop cheating, gerrymandering, right? We still have the Voting Rights Act.
But you know that there's cheating. So if I can't understand why you can't fix it. If you know what it is and how they're doing it, why you can't fix it.
Well, there's two ways to go about it. One is to go to court.
And sometimes the court is not in favor of you.
Well, the only thing we can challenge in court in Georgia right now is racial gerrymandering, because we have the Voting Rights Act, and the Supreme Court did issue a very good decision in 2023 that upheld a key provision of the Voting Rights Act requiring black majority districts to be drawn if they're available. That was a key result. I'll say in the future that could be challenged again. We could lose that provision, but right now we've got that.
And we want to keep it, basically.
That is essential. I think the Voting Rights Act is one of the foundational acts of democracy in this country, and we have to keep it going. And Congress needs to revitalize it, and it's the John Lewis Voting Rights Extension Act. That needs to be passed. We need to get our Congress people and our senators. I know Senator Warnock is a huge champion of that particular act, right? Okay. So got to get off the topic there, but we can challenge racial gerrymandering in federal court. Partisan gerrymandering, we have no way to challenge it in Georgia right now. One thing you might want to know, or your viewers may want to know, is that 30 states in this country have a provision in their state constitution requiring free and fair elections. We don't have that in Georgia. Surprising.
Okay. So what is stopping us from getting it?
We need to amend our constitution in Georgia.
And what is stopping us from doing that?
Political will. Think about it this way: to change the way we do district drawing. The gold standard now is about a half a dozen states have taken the job away from the state legislature and given it to an independent citizens commission. They get citizens to come together who learn how to do this. They give them all the data, and they do it in a nonpartisan fashion. California, Arizona, Michigan, Colorado, I can't list them all, but those are some of the key ones, right? To get that done in Georgia, we must amend the state constitution, because the Constitution says the legislature shall do this. That requires a 2/3 vote of the State House, a 2/3 vote of the Assembly, and then it has to go on the ballot. We believe if it got on the ballot, it would pass.
Right.
We believe that because we have surveyed Georgia. We did a poll, first ever time Georgians were asked about redistricting. We did a poll in 2022, our own poll. And we did it with the ACLU and Common Cause and Legal Members. We put this poll out there, and we said, what do you think about redistricting? What do you think the number one thing that people wanted? Competition. 75% of voters across all parties said we should have more competition. Half or more of the voters say we should change the laws to fix this problem. So people want it, but the politicians don't, because they have the power. They don't want to give up that power. So we've got to convince them that it's in their best interest to listen to the voters.
Wow. Why can't you have it both?
Pardon me?
Why can't you have both?
Both what now?
The power, right? Because you said people want power.
Yeah.
And fix the problem and still have power. Have the competition.
Well, you can. You raise a really interesting point. We just did a study in September about competition in Georgia. And we released a study in September 30th. We did a town hall on our website if you want to go look at it. What it said was that there is enough competitive areas in Georgia, like North Metro Atlanta, Macon Bibb, some of the cities, where you could draw maps that are fair to both parties and have enough competition so that in every single 2-year election, the control of the assembly would be up for grabs. Imagine that scenario in Georgia, where politicians had to compete for every vote.
Okay.
That would be an amazing change.
That would be an amazing change, but are they up for, the challenge? Sometimes people want it on a platter. And so when you say that some wanted competition, some, wanted it to be changed another way, to me it sounds like people just want the easy road and you don't have to go out and work for it. So is that part of the problem?
Well, the biggest problem is that the party in power draws the maps, and that's been true. We've had both parties cheating since as far back as we can see.
Absolutely.
So how do you get the parties to agree that they should change? This is the turning point question, right? In 2004, there was a turning point because the legislature was dominated by Democrats. Actually, we had a trifecta, Democratic trifecta, governor, House, and Senate, leading up to 2003, right?
Right.
And so the maps were drawn by Democrats, bad gerrymander got thrown out. We've done a story already, right? Why didn't the legislature draw the maps in 2004? Because at that time, one party had the Senate, one party had the House. So they had to make deals. They couldn't make the deal. And so the court said, we're going to draw the map for you since you don't know how to do this, right? We believe that with the demographic changes in Georgia that are coming, we could reach another tipping point where suddenly nobody knows who's going to have the power to draw the next map in 2031. And when that happens, we think that it's in the party's interest to start talking turkey about let's have a fair process, because I don't know if you're going to be drawing or me going to be drawing. I don't want to do to you what you did to me and vice versa. So can we get to that point where fairness becomes a good deal for both parties? It's a deal-making process. How do we get there? We have to see if that happens.
2031 seems so long from here.
How many elections away is that?
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah. And I think that we're becoming wiser. And we have such great technology, and I think that would eventually happen. I'm
Yeah.
almost certain that would be something
Right.
that we would start doing.
Right, and
Yeah.
the reason that we do what we do, and we've been around, our organization's been around since 2018, right? The reason we're doing what we're doing is because we want to build support. We want people across Georgia to understand this is a problem. It needs to be fixed. You need to start telling your legislators, when you elect them, what you want them to do about this. We're running a pledge campaign right now where we've asked candidates for state to pledge their support for fixing this process, okay? We're going to continue that after the election. We're going to reach out to everybody who got elected, go down the Capitol and ask them, will you please pledge to start working on making this more fair? There's
Right.
little things we can do, and there's big things we can do. Let's start with the little things. Let's get some little
And we
wins.
have a lot of time to do it.
We do, and I think that if we can get communities across Georgia, DeKalb, and everywhere across the state to start recognizing how insidious this problem is and how it affects their daily lives. Some of the laws that get passed in this state, they're passing on these razor-thin votes, and they're controversial laws. And we've looked at some of them and said, you know what? If that legislature had been more balanced, some of these laws would probably not have passed, or they would have come out differently. So we got to get people across the state to understand this affects every county. It affects everybody. So our job is to build that swell of public support. So when the legislature feels ready, we've got thousands of people saying, fix this problem.
Okay. And so that's what it takes.
That's what it takes.
People to come out and be involved.
That's
Don't sit
exactly
at
right.
home, watch TV, and complain.
First, vote tomorrow, then,
Yes.
get involved.
Get involved, because it makes a world of difference. And people don't understand that voting is not just for the individual, but it's for communities. Yes, it's about our country. You know, people forget that when you put people in office, they're the ones that help with roads, help with communities. And people just think that it magically appears. And they don't
Right.
understand that you have to vote for the right person that's going to be an asset to you in the present and an asset to your family in the future.
Right.
And so it's just not about a personality. It's about a person that's going to be beneficial, depends on what seat they're running for, but beneficial for the country, for the community at large. And we just kind of have to keep pushing that and instilling that in people. They just think it's an election. Things might change, things might not change. But without your vote, nothing will change.
Right, and staying involved after the election is very important, to your point, right? So when maps get redrawn the next time, one of the things that you try to do in maps is respect communities. But communities haven't spoken up enough. They haven't been empowered to speak
It's
up enough.
because they're complacent.
They're complacent, and they don't understand that there's an idea in redistricting called communities of interest. It's a term of art in the redistricting
I like that,
world.
and I'm going to write that
Communities of interest. So an example could be Stone Mountain. You know, the area around Stone Mountain Park could be a community of interest, right? The Atlanta University Center is a community of interest.
Right,
The
understandably so.
Vidalia onion growers down in that's a community of interest.
Yes,
They
it
have an
is.
agricultural interest. So if all those communities stood up and said, when you draw the map, don't break me up, right? If we could get all those communities identified and brought to the table, that gives the communities a voice when these maps are being drawn. I think the legislatures they say they want to use communities of interest,
Right.
but we have frankly not done all the homework necessary to empower those communities of interest. The organization that's done the most about this is Fair Count. Fair Count identified in 2021 about 425 communities of interest across Georgia. That's a good start, but there's probably thousands of them that need to be identified.
Right.
And if we can reach those community folks in advance of 2031 and say, identify your community, let's get that documented on a map somewhere, it's input to the process that gives communities a voice.
And they need to know the benefit of it, because people are hearing it and it's like they don't understand it. You know, what kind of advantage am I going to have?
Right.
You know, and that's what I think is important to say. If you come out and vote and we get our communities together, this is what will happen. This will happen in your community.
Right.
You know, when you talk about, sometimes people only want to hear about taxes. And so that's not all about politicians. It's not all about voting, just taxes. It's about your complete livelihood and the generations after you. And so how do we break that down to people without just saying, you know, one day you're going to die and people are going to live on, and what you're going to do today will be effective in the future?
Right. And I think people need to understand also, I think what most voters have in their minds when they think about what goes on between elections is bills that are passed, elections, Medicaid expansion, medical care, health care.
Your health, yes.
And all these policies, I'll call them progressive policies that Georgians want, they can't get to them because the legislature right now doesn't want to do some of those things. Okay, the political will is not there. But as we get closer to a more balanced state, because of all the demographic changes, some of those things might happen. So again, if you have a more balanced map, you're going to have a more balanced legislature. There'll be more compromise going on in the legislature. These things can happen. So taxes are important, but you can't wait every 2 years and say, I'm going to vote for the person who's got the best tax deal.
Right.
You got to get involved.
You have to get involved.
Right.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back and we're going to just end this off on how to make America a better place. You know, I know America's great. It's a great place to live. I've lived in several foreign countries, and I can't tell you there's nothing like being home. And so we want to talk about how we're going to get there, how we're going to get more people to the polls, not just for tomorrow, but forever. Get those first-time voters. So we're going to go and do a quick commercial. We're going to come back. We're going to round it out. And I hope you guys are learning something today, because I certainly am. And I can say now that I'm going to change my way of thinking. And I'm going to make it a goal. If you guys, each one of you, if you know one or two people that you can take to the polls tomorrow, please make that your civic duty. Take someone to the polls tomorrow. This is an exceedingly important election in America. So either way it goes, it is one of the most important elections that I think I've ever witnessed. So, all right, we're going to go on to this commercial break, and then we're going to come back and have more fun talking about things that we need to do in our community, our city, and our country.
Hey people, what y'all doing? What y'all doing every Monday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Yes, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. People, what y'all doing? I got something for y'all. Catch Sound from the VI with, guess who? Lady C. Lady C, big up your damn self. Tune in to Caribbean Life Radio, people. That's where you got to tune in. Caribbean Life Radio, every Monday, 8 to 9. Catch the songs from the VI with, guess who? Lady C.
Are you ready to feel your best? At Goot Wellness Spa, we're healing the body one drop at a time. Located right here in Tucker, Georgia, Goot Wellness is your destination for total health and wellness. We specialize in immune system support, detoxifying therapies, and even cutting-edge treatments like the X39 patch for stem cell activation. Imagine revitalizing your body from the inside out. Whether you're looking to boost your immune system, cleanse and detoxify, or explore green nutrition guidance, Goot Wellness is here for you. Visit us at 2122 Vistadale Court in Tucker, Georgia, or call us at 770-605-6687 and start your journey to optimal health. Goot Wellness Spa, healing the body one drop at a time.
Atlanta, your ship and clear company, E&W Shipping, is making it easy for your shipments to Jamaica this holiday season. Beginning right now, call 770-524-8663 and have your barrels picked up to meet the following shipping dates: Saturday, October 26th, Friday, November 16th, and Friday, November 30th. Get your barrels in by October 26th, and you can have your second barrel shipped at half price. Yes, E&W Shipping, your ship and clear company, is making shipping.
All right, we are back. We've just been really having a great time, talking about politics. And I just find it so interesting that Mr. Lawler's here, and he's just educating us. And that's a lot, because people, like I said earlier, I ran into about 4 or 5 men, and they had never voted. They were not motivated. And I think that educating people about the reason why we need to vote, and again, the expectations and how it will affect your life. Sometimes it affects communities, but most times it affects our life. So I want you to just tell us, we're going to end it off on expectations of tomorrow, but we're going to also tell them a little bit more about what you do and why you do it and why it needs to be done.
Sure, thank you. Expectations for tomorrow. I think we're going to have great turnout. We already have great turnout in the early vote. I'm hoping we have record turnout.
I think we are. I think we are.
That's healthy for Georgia, healthy for the country, right?
Right.
So I hope we have just record turnout across the country. That'll maybe
break the ceiling.
Well, and people are kind of on edge about this election, and so how do you get off edge? You go do something about it. Go vote, and you've done what you can do for tomorrow. And take a break overnight. We'll find out the answers, in a day or so,
or a week or so.
I'm hoping it's sooner than I think we'll have it sooner than that. So I mean, just that allows you to get it off your chest and say, let me get my skin in the game with voting, right? I hope that we have more competitive districts than I'm projecting. I really hope for that.
I hope so as well.
I think if more people have voted, there's a chance we get more, and I think that's all goodness. Voters can demonstrate their power.
Okay.
And their power in this election by saying more people came out to vote, more competition than you thought there was going to be, and people want more of it. That's the number one. When we survey voters about redistricting in Georgia, that's the number one thing they want. Is I want competitive elections. I don't want them predetermined, right?
Well, when you say things like gerrymandering and redistricting, people always think that there's a motive. There's an ulterior motive to that, and then motive, they think that but they think it in a negative way, that it's okay, you're padding you're padding the system.
Someone's cheating.
Absolutely. That's all they think about. Is it fair?
Right. You gotta get them to stop it, right? So what we do for a living basically is, and we're all a volunteer organization right now. We have I'm just a crazy volunteer who decided to take this up in my retirement, right? But please come to our website, fairdistrictsga.org.
Okay.
You can sign up. We do a monthly newsletter. We do town halls. We'll have a town hall on December, I think I'll have to look at the date for you, but it's 11th, 12th, 13th. It's on our website. We're going to be recapping this election. We're going to tell you what happened in terms of competition. Did it come out the way we thought it was going to come out?
So you're going to do a roadmap.
We're going to do a roadmap, right? And we're going to talk about what we think happened as a result of the election, right?
Right.
We'll tell you whether there was more competition, less competition. How did the map drive the outcome? That's really the key question. Did the map determine the outcome like it did in 2022, right?
But some people aren't sure about that.
I would say
that one's up in the air. That's still up in the air.
I would debate that with you based on the State House and State Senate. The map was drawn for a certain number of Republican and Democratic districts. That's the number we got.
Okay.
House was a little bit off. Senate was right on what the map determined, right? And there was only one competitive race in the Senate out of 56, right? So it's unfortunate that that's what happens. But the more we see that pattern, the more we get energized around trying to fix it. So Folks who are interested in looking at this, start by coming to our website, please.
Okay.
Sign up for our newsletter. It's free. It's a no-brainer. You'll get notice for our town hall that's coming up in December, and there's ways to get involved. What we want to do is get more communities involved. So everybody within the sound of our voices today.
Sound of our voices.
Look, we will come.
Please,
We will
let's
come
do
to
it.
any community in Georgia and talk. We've done it here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and,
But
and
thank
speak
you
to this
so
audience.
much.
It's been wonderful. We'll come to any community of any stripe, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Latin, Asian, Black, white. It doesn't matter to us. We want to spread
will it
the
be
word.
productive after the election, or is it more productive prior to the election?
No, after the election.
After the
we want to
election.
continue to
Okay.
build awareness and knowledge of how this is going in Georgia, because
Okay.
we recognize this is not a problem we're going to solve in a year. We're heading towards 2031. That's when our next real
It
chance.
sounds like a long time away, but it's not.
It is a long, but it'll take a long time to get the number of communities in Georgia energized the way we want to get you energized, and we'll help you get energized. And there's things you can do in your community. You can ask your city council, Stone Mountain,
Yes.
pass a resolution that says, we think that this ought to be changed. We'd like to come to every city council in the
Okay.
state and say,
Okay.
could you
You
please
see, I'm taking
have your
notes.
voice,
Yes.
your voice
Yes.
heard, right?
Right.
So we have a lot of work to do in organizing communities. We know the math. We know how to analyze maps and do all that. Our next major challenge is community participation in organization.
So if anyone's out there that's listening, or everyone out there that's listening and looking at this show, tell us how they can get involved.
Come to our website, sign up for our newsletter, and you can request a speaker to come to. On our website, there's options. You can email us, info@fairdistrictsga.org. Send us an email saying, I'd like to get involved. Here's the things I like to do, whether it's organizing, postcard writing, holding meetings. If you're a math expert, come. We got plenty of math that we do.
Right.
There's many ways to get involved, right?
Okay.
Our biggest need right now is for people to take up the challenge in their community and help be the voice in that community. And we can educate our communities. We can empower people to act. There's many ways to do it. But start with signing up for our newsletter. Send us emails. That's the best way to reach us at the moment. We are on social media.
Okay.
We are on Facebook. We have an Instagram account. We are sort of dormant on X right now.
Okay.
Not a friendly
Perfect.
place right now. But you'll see more of us on social media as well. So look for us on Facebook. I think we're @Fair Districts GA, or you can just
Yes.
search for Fair Districts GA. There's a page and a group on there to have discussions around. We post stuff a lot. So there's ways to become aware of what we're doing and then jump in.
Okay. Well, that's very well said, and I hope that you guys are listening and you jump in. Again, I can't say it anymore. Get out and vote tomorrow. I want you guys, people tend to forget that people died for the right to vote.
Oh,
And, I know my parents was part of the civil rights movement because it was so important to them that I have a better life. And so I want all of you all to think about wherever you are, whether you are red or blue or whatever color that you want to be on tomorrow's election. Think about how getting out to vote makes a better life for all of us. And with that being said, there was someone who was very, very, very instrumental in the civil rights movement, and that was Mr. Quincy Jones. And today, I would sadly say that he has passed. And so I just wished he could have just lived another day just to see what this election is going to be about. Having maybe, making history. It might be a history-making day tomorrow. And it was a history-making day when he was alive, and he marched arm in arm, singing, "We Shall Overcome." And I thank him for it because he made a better life for me. And I hope when you get out and vote, you'll make a better life for your family, your children, and the generations. Thank you all for listening to CLTV. That's Caribbean Life TV. I am your host, Mayor Beverly Jones, and I've had a very, very special guest, Mr. Ken Lawler. And am I pronouncing that correct?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good. It's good. Get out and vote. I just want to take your hand because this is how elections work, hand in hand. You can be on the same side, you can be on different sides, but all together, I always tell my constituents, we breathe the same air, We drink the same water, and we use the same lights. We're all brothers. Get out and vote. Thank you.
You're welcome.
God's great big family and the truth. You know love is all